Ubisoft's Assassin's Creed is a franchise that has become the most meaningful to me over the past decade. I'm unable to escape its pull, and while some titles have left a sour note, I can't help but come back when a new game is announced. I have grown deeply invested in this series over the years, caring more for Desmond Miles and his gang of modern-day assassins than most of my colleagues on this site. And yes, I'm totally putting them on blast. I'm also a big fan of the series' pseudo-historical tours presented through the lens of a secret war between the Knights Templar and the Assassin Brotherhood. Like most long-running franchises, Assassin's Creed has its ups and downs over the years, and while the downs were a result of technical gaffes or misguided implementation of certain mechanics and microtransactions, the ups had a tendency to be the most fun and memorable. Two of these ups in particular, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and Assassin's Creed Rogue, have now been ported to the Nintendo Switch, packaged together for the appropriately named Rebel Collection. Edward Kenway and Shay Cormac are rebels in that they don't fall into the traditional mold of assassins and Templars, whereas Ezio, the Fry twins, Adewale, and Aveline join the clandestine war as a result of losing something personal at the hands and machinations of the Order. Edward and Shay come into their own places because it was convenient and allowed them to advance their personal agendas. For Edward, it's the desire to be well and truly free. And Cormac, he saw the assassins just as dangerous as the Templars. Intriguing ideas, but how on earth would the player experience these memories when Desmond Miles died at the end of Assassin's Creed 3? By turning the player into a game developer.
So, welcome to the Sample 17 project. Before you get started, you're gonna need this. There you go. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hello, bonjour. C'est bon? It works? All right, let's take a walk. Your file says you've done some memory research before, but not to this extent, which is surprising. You're very good. The data streams are very stable.
Instead of controlling a modern-day assassin like Sean, Rebecca, or even Desmond's dad, you play an unnamed new hire to Abstergo's entertainment division, which makes interactive experiences for home versions of the Animus. Certainly one of the most outrageous and fun twists in the series, the game developer angle was effective at showing how the other side operated while Desmond and company hid themselves all over the place. As a member of the dev team, whose credits include Assassin's Creed Liberation, your job is to wade through Desmond's leftover genetic material to explore the life and times of Edward Kenway and Shay Patrick Cormac. Black Flag is one of the more inspired additions to the pre-Origins Assassin's Creed catalog. Abstergo points its eye to the golden age of piracy, accessing the memories of Edward Kenway, who sailed in and around the Caribbean during the 18th century. His story begins ashore on an island after a sea battle alongside a wounded assassin caught up in a secret mission. After a chase, Edward subdues the assassin and steals his robe, equipment, and a mysterious artifact that is to be delivered to Havana as part of a dubious trade deal with Templar agents looking to advance their peace through control agenda. I always love the characterization of Edward Kenway because he owes no allegiance to either side and makes frequent use of the assassin's robes, gear, and connections to advance his goal of securing a life of true freedom for he and his fellow pirates, unburdened by the conspiratorial and clandestine activities of the Brotherhood and the Templars. Though he eventually does grow to understand the nature of the Brotherhood's mission, he acts as an independent third party, lending his assistance in saving the world as long as it lined up with his own ideology. Irishman Shay Patrick Cormac also shakes up the Assassin's Creed status quo. Edward uses the Assassin Brotherhood to support the vision of a pirate paradise on Nassau. Shay uses the Templars as a response to what he sees as a betrayal of purpose on behalf of the Brotherhood, who have grown misguided to the point of obsession, caring not for the lives impacted in their quest to secure precursor artifacts. Rogue features an assassin traumatized after a mission to retrieve a piece of Eden goes wrong and triggers the real-life Lisbon earthquake of 1755, which causes Shay to turn his back on the American Brotherhood. Working under Haytham Kenway, Cormac joins the Templars, showing the player how the war played out from the other side. Just like Edward's relationship with the assassins, the Templars are simply a means to an end. I never got the impression that Shay was fully wedded to the cause because his motivations lie in stopping the assassins from risking further death and destruction. Rogue was such an important entry in Assassin's Creed, giving the franchise a much-needed dimension to a millennia-spanning conflict that shouldn't be immune from moral incongruities. Rogue shares the same gameplay foundation established in Black Flag, providing the player with a fairly large open world that gave unrestricted access to all areas of the map, free from the typical Animus-created barriers that locked areas behind story progression. A large part of the action took place on land, where various settlements, jungles, plantations, and forgotten ruins served as parkour playgrounds and places to eavesdrop and stalk assassination targets. Advancing the story meant playing through a series of missions that had you infiltrating Templar strongholds and restricted areas like before, but also at sea with newly expanded naval engagements and encounters introduced in Assassin's Creed 3. With treasure-laden shipwrecks, sea life to hunt, and fights to pick with gunships, frigates, and British men-of-wars, it felt like the scope of things to do an Assassin's Creed game doubled. Black Flag and Rogue nailed the swashbuckling nature of pirate fiction, especially when boarding enemy ships to plunder or add them to Edward's personal fleet, letting you swing onto the deck with the sword in hand. Rogue would make additional tweaks to the naval experience, incorporating icebergs that could be blown apart to create powerful ripples that could knock out smaller vessels. You could even ignite barrels and use them as traps for pursuing ships. Both Edward's Jackdaw and Shay's Morgan could be upgraded by spending plundered cargo to make them more resilient and powerful in a fight, which was necessary to take on the legendary ships that stalked the four corners of each map. Neither games appear to have been changed too drastically to fit the confines of the Nintendo Switch hardware. The Rebel Collection's version of Rogue appears to be the remaster that came out last year, which benefited from improved visuals than those on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And while we've come to accept visual limitations on the Switch, especially in handheld mode, both games actually look pretty great and run like a dream. Sure, the game looks better when docked, but I haven't yet to encounter any significant frame rate hiccups or any other shortcomings outside of the occasional twitchy character models that show the Switch having a hard time keeping up. The Assassin's Creed control scheme of combat and parkour adapts well to the Joy-Cons, allowing for an overall uncompromised port of the original games. The only issue of significance I had was a result of the smaller analog sticks on the Joy-Cons, which made triggering eagle vision without moving my character out of a hiding spot pretty tricky if I wasn't concentrating on my thumb movements. It's a minor gripe in a much larger picture, and considering how well everything else runs when played on the go, I learned to be more precise with it. I love Assassin's Creed, and I will continue to do so for as long as Ubisoft keeps making them. As the series continues to follow its new, modernized path, it's nice to reflect on the games that have led up to Origins and Odyssey. Setting aside the fact that you can get 2 full-featured open-world Assassin's Creed titles on a mobile platform, the Rebel Collection offers 2 of the most delightful adventures in the franchise on a Switch-shaped platter that runs great and controls really well. As an added bonus, all DLC from the games, including the must-play Freedom Cry expansion, are included alongside digital reproductions of Blackbeard's journal and the Awakenings manga. It can feel weird going back to the older format after spending hours acclimating yourself to the gameplay of the new Creed, but neither Black Flag or Rogue really feel dated in any way and remain insanely playable to this day. And if that doesn't sell you, perhaps knowing that the Rebel Collection offers the finest collection of sea shanties this side of the West Indies will have you gallivanting over to the Nintendo eShop. DarkStation gives Assassin's Creed the Rebel Collection for the Nintendo Switch 5 stars.